Welcome to a new episode from Perfect English Podcast. Today we'll talk about a little grammar. We will talk about modal verbs. We'll just talk about general things you need to know when you want to use any of the modal verbs. We have many modal verbs, but all of them follow the same 4 rules we're going to use right now. Whether you're using can, could, may, might, etc., they all follow the same 4 rules. Rule number 1. These verbs can never be used alone. They don't have meaning on their own. They just change the meaning of the verbs they come with, and that verb is called the main verb. So you can't simply say, I can a car. What does that mean? I can a car. You have the ability to do what to the car? You have to say something, I can fix a car, I can drive a car, I can lift a car. But you can't simply say, I can a car. You can't say, I must home. What does that mean? You must go home, you must be at home, you must leave home. What must you do? So rule number 1, never use these verbs on their own. Now for rule number 2, these verbs are not like other verbs. They cannot be conjugated. And what does that mean? What does conjugation mean? That means you cannot say like play, played, playing. You can't say must, musted, musting. These verbs cannot be conjugated. It's must all the time. It doesn't take an S. It doesn't take an ED. We don't say musts with he, she, or it. We don't say ED must in the past. These verbs are always in the same form. And for rule number 3, we don't use auxiliary verbs with them when we want to use them in negative. We don't say, I don't must go now, or I won't, can't, or something. It doesn't work this way. We don't need other auxiliary verbs to create negative sentences when we already have modal verbs that we can add not to and have our negative sentence. We can simply say, I cannot or I can't go there. We can say, you mustn't do this or you must not do this. You don't have to use any of the other auxiliary verbs to create negatives. And that brings us to rule number 4, which is similar. We don't need auxiliary verbs to create questions. You don't say, do you can do this or do you can go with me? You simply say, can you go with me? Or can you do this? Or could you do this? Or must you do this? You don't need to use any of the other auxiliary verbs. So 4 things, quickly, let's remember what they are. These verbs never come alone. They always have a main verb with them. These verbs cannot be conjugated. We don't need auxiliary verbs to create negative sentences with modal verbs. And we don't need auxiliary verbs to create questions with modal verbs. And that is enough grammar for one day. Next time we will learn more. I hope you have learned a lot today, and I'm pretty sure that your English is a step closer to perfect English. This was your host, Danny. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.